Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So thank you everyone for coming to my talk or to my seminar or to my webinar. So as thank you for all who's coming tonight. Okay. So for tonight I will talk to you guys about what is embedded system. So do you guys have ever heard about embedded system? So I think that maybe some of you have heard about embedded system. But before I continue with my topics today, I will try to talk to you about a little bit about IIUM. Okay, so this is IIUM. This is the Kuliah of Engineering, where I'm further my study. Which this is the logo for the student society. And then to brief, the vision of IIUM is to aim to become a leading international center of educational excellence, which seeks to restore the dynamic and progressive role of the Muslim Ummah in all branches of knowledge and intellectual discourse. So, what is the mission of okay, I'm sorry of IIUM is the first one is integration, Islamization, and internationalization and comprehensive excellence. Okay, so do you want to know about what is the course offered in IIUM KOE or College of Engineering? So basically, there are some courses offered. The first one is manufacturing. The second is electronics, computer and information, and then Bachelor of Engineering in Communications, in mechatronics, which I'm further my study, material, biochemical, biotechnology, civil, mechanical automotive, and aerospace. So I will talk about Bachelor of Engineering Mechatronics, where I'm further my study. I will talk to you guys about the program and the previous achievement from KOE Mechatronics, as well as what program that I already joined. Okay, so the first one is Robocon. We got third place Robocon 2018 and top 16 Robocon 2019. So basically, this is the robot that we create, and this one is for 2019. So basically, one of the advantages of IIUM KOE is they have a facility, enough facility to help students to build robotics, which is for mechatronics students. And then the next one is the Malaysia Autonomous Underwater Vehicle Challenge MAUVC in 2017, and they get champion. Also for the T Robotics Underwater Challenge, they get the champion also. I think this is 2016. And then the next one is, this is the first competition I joined on my first year of IAM KE, which is RoboFighter 2017. This is me. And then this is the Robot Combat 2018 in UniKL. And this competition is all about creating a robot which the objective is to push or to push the opponent's robot outside of the arena. Okay, so let's continue with our topics tonight about embedded system. So first of all, system. What is a system? System is involves an input signal and output signal, and then it will create or yield another signal. And in between, there is a process which there's a lot of process such as communication protocol, signal processing, image processing, filtering, and then it will yields another output which can be used for another activities. This is the representation of embedded system. Embedded system is something like a computer. So imagine that a computer, you have the input, right? Let's say the computer in front of you right now, you have the input, which is the keyboard. You type something, and then there is a brain which control everything, which controls or receive the input, and then will give the output in terms of readable or words display. So for example, this is the embedded system. Sensors, basically in industry, the embedded system can be seen commonly as sensor, CPU, and actuator. Sensor can be various, such as sound sensor, gas sensor, light sensor, touch sensor, and then there's a computer or the processing unit, the memory to store the information, the CPU for the arithmetic logic, and the hardware, and then the actuators. So, for example, is uh, a fingerprint scanner. the input is from the fingerprint scanner, the sensor to detect your fingerprint, to detect the pattern. And then the CPU will try to match the input from the sensor, and then when the image is correct or image is approved, and then it will give instruction or command to the actuator, such as automatic door. There is a motor which controlled by the CPU upon receiving the input from the sensor. So a system that has computer hardware and integrate with software embedded inside. So basically this is about embedded system. Okay, so embedded system also, apart from sensor and actuator, it is also have the intelligence. What is intelligence? Intelligence means the ability to manipulate the input and give some output. So for example, a remote control car. A remote control car or autonomous car. So basically the sensor or the input given is from the LDR sensor to detect the light intensity of the lane provided in an area, and then the actuator is the motor where, for example, when the sensor detect a black line, it will follow the line, and then it will give the instruction to the actuator to move according to the line. And the intelligence comes when the embedded system try to make some comparison between the dark area or the light area, and then give instruction based on the troubleshoot, based on the difference. So this is the embedded system. Okay, so what is the application of embedded system in our real life application? So obviously embedded system is already applied in industrial robots, where they have the inputs which is inserted by the user, and then the output is by the moving, this is called like the servo, which moving or grabbing, pick and place. And then the digital cameras. So why digital cameras embedded system? Because digital camera, first the input is from the button, and then the output is from the image displayed within the digital camera. But what is the CPU? The processing is come from capturing the image through some sensor, light sensor or some stabilizer. And then the next one is the gaming console. So this is a very common in our life. The input is we can see from the button, and then the output is we can see the change of movement in the game. So what is the embedded system or the CPU? The CPU coming from the to convert the input data into readable form, which the computer can display that something is moving when you try to give some input. And then, so last but not least is the microwave oven. This is like a simple machine, but it is also can be called as embedded system, because they have the input, they have the button, they have the output, which is heat. They have, and then the what is the brain? The brain is, for example, they integrating with the timer, integrating with the heat sensor. So whenever the timer is running up, and then the heat will try to decrease by time. Okay, so I will give you some another examples which is very common. So for example, is a remote control, which is, I believe that every one of you will have this in your house. So the input here is the buttons, and then the output is the modulated IR signal. Why? Because over here this is the IR LED, the input button which is over here, and then it is connected to the IR LED. And then the brain is the logic board, the discrete components which can transport or transfer the data from the input to the IR LED, and then we'll try to shoot to the decoder. The next one, as I said, this is a joystick controlled robot car. The input is the joystick. So this is the handmade or man-made, or basically building a joystick controlled robot from scratch. So you can see that this is the controller Arduino Nano, and this is Arduino Nano also, and then there is also a receiver and transmitter. So basically this is the input, and then it try to transmit the data using the transmitter, and the receiver will receive the data and will control the car tire. So compared to the previous example, the output is in form of IR signal. However, for this example, the output is modulated Bluetooth signal. It is have the same concept, and you can see here the brain is the Bluetooth module, or the HC06 and the Arduino Uno. So this is the computer. This is the embedded system, because Arduino Uno is a microcontroller. Other than that, there's a Arduino Mega, Arduino Nano, or you can use a Raspberry Pi. This is a type of controller and microprocessor which can able to do something like communication protocol, converting, signal processing, and filtering. Okay, what is the advantages of embedded system? So why does it important, embedded system? It is very important because it is a changing phase between old technology to a latest technology. So for example, the first one is it gives a low cost. Why? Because you can make a controller or embedded system by scratch using logical DLD, using logic board, for example NAND, or but by use of embedded system, for example the board of Arduino Uno, it helps us to make it is a very low cost because it is also compiled in a single board, and its price is a little cheap compared when you buy a when you buy multiple of logical board. And then the next one is small size. Imagine you can insert 0 to 16 to 32 inputs of sensor to a Arduino Mega, which is as I can say it's around this size, Arduino Mega, and it's very small compared when you try to build a logical board using a individual component. And then the next one is high reliability. Why? Because the embedded system is, first, it is programmable, and then second, when you make a mistake, you doesn't have to alter the hardware. You can change the programming sequence. So it is very reliable. And the next one is faster operation. This is because that it is related to the high reliability. They have a faster clock speed compared to individual logical board. And then the next one is easy to manufacture. And the last one is the programmability, which, as I said before, it doesn't have you don't have to change the whole hardware of the controller, but you can correct the failure through program. So I think that's all from now. It's my talk about embedded system. So this is me. This is my GitHub link where you can access to my repository about my previous projects or Arduino code. So you can check on it later. So do you guys have any questions? Okay. Okay. So as you can see, I already show you some examples of embedded system, right? For example, the remote control or the microwave. And when we say about current technology, let's say for example, Tesla autonomous car, quantum sensor, which will be used in the future, which can replace the lidar. It is still a embedded system because the concept is there. Quantum sensor, I give some example. Quantum sensor and lidar sensor, they are two different things because lidar sensor is a sensor which depends on light, and but however quantum sensor is based on space, right? So even it is a different method of sensing the environment. However, when it comes to sending information, sending commands, or changing the data, it is also through a process which is very important in embedded system. It is embedded system because there is a processor which control everything. Sensor is a sensor. However, when it comes to sending the information from the sensor, it still need a computer. It still need the logic board, which one of the embedded system, and to supply the command or to give the instruction to the actuator. So basically it is a embedded system. So as I said before, embedded system consists of three main things. The first one is the input. In any kind of input, sensor, analog or digital, buttons, or like biometric sensor. And then the second one is the CPU or the software. So the software is very important because without the software, you cannot do anything about the data from the sensor. How do you want to communicate with from to send the data from the sensor to the hardware? you must need a communication protocol which only can be accessed or can be configured using the embedded system. So in the future, I think everything will be always have embedded system. Even our mobile phone is embedded system because the input is there. Our touch is the input, and it have many functions. So for example, GPS, flashlight, calling to another person, messaging apps. It all contains embedded system because there's the information sent and to receive is using embedded system. So I think that is the answer for your question, brother. Okay. So I think that's all from now. Thank you for coming to my talk today. I hope that you have gained some information about embedded system. Even some of you didn't pursue in engineering, and please suggest to your neighbor, to your family and friends about IIUM because IIUM is a very good place. It provides a good facility for us. It gives some experience to various of study field. Other than engineering, we also study about Islamic. I think that's all from me. Thank you.